Hello, hello, hello. This is Adrienne Berg, and this is The Ageless Traveler. You know, when things are worth repeating, I like to repeat them. One of the things that I think is so worth repeating is that being a voluntour is more than taking a vacation. It really can extend to you for the rest of your life once you get home. Now, I recently had the real privilege of being guided by Lorraine Keenan, our guest. She's the creator and the CEO of Hero Holidays. I had the privilege of meeting her, being with her for several intense days, where we did go to many of the organizations where she has her programs, where you would be able to volunteer, as well as see South Africa and any other parts of Africa, because, of course, this is Hero Holidays. So you're both a hero and you're on a holiday at the same time. And I was really struck by it. So did it do anything and change anything for me? The answer is yes. And Lorraine, before I introduce you again and put you on, I'm going to surprise you right now. I didn't tell you this. I had a page on my website called Ageless Ambassador Program for people to learn to be a volunteer. And here's what you don't know. I took it off the website. I thought that I was offering something that people really were not that interested in. Well, because of you, it's going back on the website November 16th for the celebration of the end of our second year on this podcast. So I'm going to start the show with a thank you to you. What I want you to rush right into was camp. You've just been, for one weekend, creating a camp that has changed kids' lives. Tell us what that was about and what the volunteers did for you and for the kids over that camp weekend.
Absolutely. Well, it was fabulous. We've had 3 this year already, but this weekend was the ultimate. It really was. It was a girls' camp. We had 50 girls. In fact, I think 52 girls came. 52 girls from various organizations, churches, clubs, but all within about 20-kilometer radius of the farm, which also is very important that you're not traveling, traveling too far and whatever, and they're not so far away from home. But the one thing is they're coming to a farm, which is in the middle of a big 5 game reserve, where there is animals and there is all of the bush type experience, which they never get to see. In the townships, I mean, you've been, Adrian, you've seen, I mean, there's very little greenery, there's very little environmentally friendly spaces, and there's no space for kids to play and to do things. So these kids came, they ranged from about, I think the youngest was about 9 and right up to teenagers, up to about 15. And the concept of the camp was catch them before they fall, because these young girls are so at a very impressionable age, whereas they don't know what they want to choose as careers or where they should be studying, or to encourage them to want to study and to also understand that there is a big wide world out there that offers a lot of different activities for you to do. So we had girl talk, because it was girls' camp. So we did a lot of personal hygiene and a lot of stuff like that for girls, because again, it's quite taboo in the African culture to talk about your periods and your pains and all the things that go on with a girl. And obviously, sort of reproduction health, very important. Also, just survival in the bush. And also, none of the kids knew one another. So there was like maybe 5 or 6 kids from one organization. So they were meeting for the first time. Then when they all arrived, the first thing we did was we split them up into 3 groups, mixing the groups. So they were all different from the different organizations. And then the first thing you had to do was create a flag and a war cry. It was unbelievable to watch. We just put these plain white sheets down on a table and gave them paintbrushes and things. And within like 20 minutes, they had these teams. They just came up with their ideas themselves, which was part of the team building story. So those teams were then together for the rest of the weekend. And I think by the end of Sunday, these kids were going away confident and very satisfied with what they had learned. Going back, I think, to appreciate their environment. It was all of those good things. I think next year we want to do at least 5 or 6 sort of summer camps, winter camp, that kind of thing, So they had the luxury of an outdoor experience and an outbound experience, which they will never forget, I don't think.
Well, I have a great belief that when you change your situation, you can change your psychology. Many young people, not only in Africa, are depressed. Many of them have had deprivations of all kinds, and they don't think that there's anything in the world other than what they can see in front of them. But I know in my own life, when I lost my dad at age 11, it was only because I traveled. I was able to travel with a camp, by the way, that it made a difference in my life from that day to today. And I credit organizations like yours for taking kids who would not necessarily have the money to go and see the world. I know there's a big world out there. I will also tell you that as you describe the camp, Lorraine, begin to think about, corporate team building. So if anybody out there is involved in corporate team building and you've got some money in your budget, this is exactly where you should be putting it. Because now you're teaching young people, girls who had never, ever had this experience, to team build. And the team building world, know how important that is for productivity. But before we take a break, let's talk a little bit about Hero Holidays in general. What it is an organization that melds opportunities to voluntour with sightseeing, basically. So let's just take this camp. Some of the folks there were voluntours.
Yes, we had the American family, as I said, that this is their third year. They've been back, and they happened to coincide with the camp, so it was fabulous. And they had two teenage daughters who are now teenagers. They were the first time they were much younger, but now they're teenage, and they joined in and partook of everything that the local kids did. So that was great. The mom was very, very helpful in the kitchen because we were busy making sandwiches and making all those things for the kids. But so the volunteers would definitely be needed for camps, because you just for the games and for the it's very tiring to entertain 50 kids. Well, the more people we have, the better.
Now, of course, you have set holidays, so everyone should know that when you go on your website, Hero Holidays, and you'll have that in the show notes, you can see set holidays where you'll know exactly what you're going to see in Africa. And you can also add to that, because Lorraine is wonderful at creating tours. You'll see exactly what you'd see in Johannesburg and Soweto in South Africa, but also where you would be volunteering. And you can select from some of the standard, nothing you do is standard, but already tried and true is a better word, itineraries that you have. Now, when I went with you, I actually saw some of those venues. So let's start with that. Of course, I think everybody would be most interested in Babies in the Bush. So can you explain that? And then we'll talk after a break about what you can see in Johannesburg and Soweto just as a tourist. But tell us about Babies in the Bush.
Okay. So Babies in the Bush was a project that it's my pet project, I suppose, because it is just so unique, because it is a farm in the middle of a big 5-game reserve run by a family. And we have a baby safe house where we have small babies, which are abandoned babies. Basically, we only have 6 at any given time. It's not the criteria. It's not the main reason for Babies in the Bush, though it was, and that's where we started originally, was with lots of baby. They only stay till they're about 2 or so, and then they go for adoption. And again, the adoptions are for local people, and we try and keep people within their own community and within their own culture. That's that. But then you're in the middle of a big 5-game reserve, so we have accommodation there. It's very rustic accommodation on the farm. But if, for instance, older people or people that want a little bit more comfort, there are 22 lodges within the vicinity. So one could stay at one of the lodges, like you came to Kwalata. Kwalata Lodge would be the ideal one, because it's really is it's a fabulous cultural experience in itself, and they also look after the community within the area. So there you would stay there, and commute to the babies in the bush and get involved with the daycare centers and in the whole area. The community in that particular area are so receptive and so needy and so appreciative of foreigners coming and going and getting to know other people's cultures. It's quite something, yeah.
Well, I'll give you a little synopsis. First of all, the game drive was the very first game drive I had ever been on. Subsequently, I was on 12 safaris, but that was my first. It was one of the best. We immediately saw elephants. We immediately saw Ryan. We immediately saw primates, and it was just a wonderful thing. The safari lodge was as good as any of the safari lodges I went to subsequently. It's beautiful. It also has a wedding chapel that I love, because if that's something you're going to do, you're going to redo your vows. People think, oh, I've been married 60 years. What could I do? Well, you can go to a game drive and you can go to that magnificent chapel, which is filled with art. I mean, the sculptures, the art, this is top notch. And everybody gets their own private barbecue spot. And you really feel like you are in Africa, not just your in Africa. So that's a very interesting touristic experience. What surprised me very happily was where you took us in Johannesburg and Soweto. Johannesburg doesn't get the best tourism, accolades. And I was there once, but I've never been there like this. I have to say that Sanctuary Mandela was one of the best hotels I've ever been in. And the meal was the best meal I had in 2 months. That included Paris. But there was more to that. In Johannesburg, and you do see the entire apartheid history. And it is important to see that. But you also can have a fabulous rooftop cocktail overlooking the city. You could do that. It's wonderful things. But what I'd like you to tell everybody about is the tuk-tuk tour in Soweto. That's the gold standard of real international tourism. If you haven't done that, you didn't do anything. Tell us about the tuk-tuk tour.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, again, Lobos was started sort of 13 years ago, and he does bicycle tours and tuk-tuk tours. Yeah. And his idea was, seeing coachloads of people coming in just to visit Mandela House and getting out of a coach and walking around and getting back on the coach. He felt, no, they should get more involved in the community. They must meet the kids and meet the family and meet the people. So he started Lebo's bicycle tours, and now it's tuk-tuk tours. And now we we just had 40 people last week for a food tour. Oh. Adrian, you didn't have time for that, but I would love you to, next time you come, that we did a fabulous food tour where you go and you pick your vegetables and you do your whole thing in the community, and then you come back and you learn how to cook.
Wonderful food. And they took us into a village where my husband ate heart and lung and who knows, not think, but that's another story.
You do. You try it. You do. I mean, you're there. It's what it's all about, isn't it? The experience. Yeah, the different parts of the animal that people eat. But yeah, so you had your tour, but then you go and you definitely see all sides of Soweto. And Soweto is the largest and most famous township in South Africa. And it was the bedrock of our independence. Vilakazi Street's the only street in the world which has 2 Nobel Peace laureates, Nelson Mandela and Bishop Abel Tutu. And they lived almost next door to one another. And that's very famous. Vilakazi Street's very, very famous. And of course, it's very popular. It's full of restaurants and nightlife is really cool. But the rest of Soweto, you can actually get to meet the community. You go into the hostel side of things, which is where we had the remnants of apartheid, which was where single men that were working in the mines lived in these hostel environments. Now they've opened up the hostels that families can move in, it desperately needs renovating, but that's something down the line. It's not going to happen overnight. But Soweto has got its own culture. It's fabulous. And yeah.
And I will say that Lorraine is very accommodating, very knowledgeable. I love art. She knows that I love art. And in Johannesburg, we did a safari which I called an art safari, not an animal safari, I was able to pick up 2 paintings. So if you would like to see what you can do if you're an art collector in Johannesburg, and you probably do not associate Johannesburg with art collecting, you would be wrong, because it really is a place for that, including crafts, true, but I am actually talking about fine art. I am not only talking about crafts. Now, when we come back, I want to discuss another one of the programs that Lorraine has made so popular in addition to Babies in the Bush, and that is the conservation, where you can be in a game ranch and you can see what you can do for the environment. I know this is something that many of you have asked me about. So don't you guys go anywhere. We will be right there. Did you know that 3,000 people receive the Ageless Traveler newsletter every single Tuesday, and it's free of charge? Well, you simply subscribe on our website, agelesstraveler.com, when you see the pop-up, or take a look at the resource section that's in the show notes accompanying this episode. You'll also see how directly you can subscribe to our newsletter. Now, what will you find in there? Well, every single week, you will get news you can use about travel, cultural experiences you can enjoy, suggestions for luxury travel for less, and yes, I answer your questions. And you can even send me those questions by text or voicemail, and you'll see just how to do it when you receive your Travel Tuesday newsletter. Plenty of discounts, plenty of inspiration, so that you never stop traveling. That's agelesstraveler.com. Take a look at the pop-up, subscribe, or take a look at our resource list accompanying this and every episode, so that you get a direct link to Travel Tuesday. Now we are back, and this, of course, is The Ageless Traveler. I'm speaking with Lorraine Keenan. She's becoming a regular on our show. Because, she's had 2 shows with us, but the reason that she is with us for a 3rd show is I actually did it. I went to Johannesburg. I went to Soweto. I saw the wonderful work that Hero Holidays is doing, which she created. And I also enjoyed my sightseeing time. But what I want to explain to everybody listening is this is not a mystery. You can simply go on the website for Hero Holidays, and you can see a variety of different combinations of voluntouring and tourism. Now, we mentioned a few, Babies in the Bush, we mentioned the camp and so on. But for those who are conservation-minded, you're doing a lot of wonderful work. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think people want to experience it. They want to learn more about their environment and to appreciate it. And you know, there are a lot of long-term projects, like you go for 3 months and 4 months, and usually school leavers that are going to then maybe take up the environmental studies or do something. But for me, I think, again, because it's Hero Holidays, it's a holiday, I have created a week-long project, which just whets your appetite, basically.
Yes.
So you stay in a very nice 3-star game reserve in a lodge, and every day you do something different. You're involved with the community. You do a bit of work on the actual ranch itself. But also you sleep out one night in the bush. That's the highlight of the trip, basically. They love that. Everyone loves that. And you do game drives and whatever. So it just whets your appetite to the bush and what it's all about. And very knowledgeable guides that will teach you and explain to you why certain things are the way they are, and why, and climate change, what's happening. And so it's just a very broad base bush experience. But I think in itself, it's ideal, and it's just for a week. Then we usually incorporate that with either Babies in the Bush or the Soweto project or the City project, so that people get a taste of, you know, the bush and the city. You can do both.
So I mentioned earlier in the show that I did have that experience, and it was my very first game drive, my very first real safari. And the first thing I want to tell you is it's a real safari. You are in a Jeep. You are looking at animals that are not in a zoo. You may or may not see them. You are rushing around with a wonderful guide and a driver, making sure you do see them. It turned out, of course, that we did see them, and very quickly and right away. And it is amazing to see an elephant just looking at you while you're looking at them, while they're looking at you, and the rhinos and many, many more. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and I have to take exception to this, look into this for me. I did, I think, 6 different safari camps after I went with you.
Yeah.
5-star, 4-star, and 3-star. But I don't know why this camp is only 3-star. Because it looks exactly like the 4-star, at least. I don't understand it. In fact, I love art, as you now know. It's got some wonderful original sculptures. The roofs are gorgeous. I don't get it. I think somebody's got to work on the rating because it makes no sense to me. But it's good accommodations. It's very, very good accommodations. And the last thing that I do want to mention actually about this is that this is still a communal atmosphere. If you go in a busy season when there are a lot of people there, you will meet new people and you will bond with new people. So it really is a wonderful experience. We'll finish there. You bring in a lot of Voluntour folks, and they don't know each other when they go on these trips.
Yeah.
Like any other trip, they may go with family, they may know 1 or 2 people, but in general, if you've got 16 people on a trip, they don't know everyone. Do they continue to know each other because has this become a bonding experience?
Absolutely. Thanks to social media. I mean, we have I have WhatsApp groups that going back 2-3 years. Every now and again, somebody pops up and puts something on there because they're still active in the they want to be active in the group. Wishing somebody a happy birthday the other day. Somebody, one of my first groups from last year. And I thought, wait. And I had to look to see who it was. To answer your question, people make friends and they bond and they keep friendships and they then maybe travel somewhere else together again. I've never had a group that haven't kept in contact after they've returned. Yeah.
You know, going back to the beginning of your discussion, because I was inspired, as I said on the show, to reinstate our Ageless Ambassador program. I opened the door to folks who are volunteers in different parts of the world to write an article for that webpage. And you mentioned the camp with 52 girls. And one of the things you did was you explained reproductive rights and reproductive issues and things that nobody tells them about. Well, the first article I got, Lorraine, was actually from someone in the U.S. whose work it is to give bras to girls' organizations all over the world. Now, I have brought blue jeans, I brought pens, I brought books, but it never occurred to me. Yes, the big world of being able to do good so simply. And many years ago, I would say 50, I was a lawyer in the garment industry in New York City. Do you know how many bras I could have brought to Africa?
Yeah.
I was saying again, if you're in the garment industry in New York City, I know where you have lunch. You can put your bras together, and I'll show you through our Ageless Ambassador program how you can be an Ageless Ambassador. That's how many things there are to do in this world.
No, it's absolutely. And funny you should say that, because one of my friends, one of my gym buddies who owns a very exclusive boutique in Santon City, you've been to Santon City, she has, in fact, she said to me this morning, I must count up what I've got, because we did a sanitary pad drive for Women's Month in August, and she also did a bra drive. And so she actually said to me this morning, I've got some bras, Lorraine. I must actually root them out and get them for you. I said, yeah, great. Bring it out. So now, it's funny you should talk about bras today. Yeah.
People shake their head and they say, there's nothing I can do in this world. There's too many problems. When you're working with the organizations that understand, you begin to see all the things you can really do sometimes just by snapping your fingers. And really, really change the world. Individually, you can do it. But one of the ways you can do that is with Lorraine Keenan's Hero Holidays. Have a good time while you're doing it. If you've ever seen my picture on social media, you know that I always wear a hat when I travel. I know what the sun can do to your skin, from causing wrinkles to skin cancer, and I don't want any of it. I search for the very best hats at the very best price, and I offer them to you on the Ageless Traveler website at agelesstraveler.com/products-services. You can check out my traveling hat and other of the must-have travel goodies like Tripped, the only packing system I ever use, and get 20% discount when you buy for the first time. While you're on the website, check out all of the discounts. My favorite, Cruise Is It, the lowest price for thousands of cruises. Now, you can just look at the resource section right here on the show notes, and you will find the URL for our products and services page. That's agelesstraveler.com/products-services. It's written on every resource list for every one of our shows. Never stop traveling. So I'll finish with this. What is the next thing? What's your next project?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're coming into the Christmas thing. Would you believe now it's October? So now we got Halloween. We've got a big Halloween for the kids in Soweto on the 2nd of November. Halloween is on Friday, the 31st of October. But we're on the Sunday. We're going to do it on the Sunday. And I started this about 5 years ago, I think, or 6 years ago now, because again, this bringing, I'm Irish, I'm originally Irish. And I'm a great believer in mixing the cultures. And Halloween is actually, way back when I was a child, it was, a thing because it was harvest time and you had all this fruit and whatever. But so I wanted to bring that old tradition to the kids in Soweto. So 5 years ago we started it, and they have a leprechaun creature that they call the tokolosh, which is in African culture, and he's a little man. And I mean, he's not a very nice little man. I mean, our Irish leprechauns are, very nice people, and you get, your pot of gold at the end of the rainbow and all this thing. But this little tokolosh guy is bad news usually, and people are scared of him actually. So when we dress up on Halloween, they associate it with the tokolosh. So I've been trying to, mix the cultures and explain that, this is something we do and how we do it, and they do it. And so, this is the 5th year now. So the kids love dressing up. That's the main thing. And it's trick or treat, and they get sweets and full of rubbish for the day. It's fine. It's just one day of the year. And my our Irish ambassador, he has come now twice, and I think he will definitely come again this year if he's not too busy with the G20 business. But so he and his wife last year were doing hot dogs and handing them out. They loved it. They really got involved with the kids. So I like to bring in some people that particularly the Irish community, and sort of introduce them to Soweto, because a lot of them have, believe it or not been to Soweto. So it's that. And then the Soweto kids. So that's my next project is Halloween.
Well, I'll leave you with this. You never know what connections kids make. In my town in Brooklyn, we did celebrate Halloween. Very little, maybe 4 years old, with my mother taking me by the hand door to door. And by the time I was 5, I knew what the United Nations was. And now, as you know, I'm very involved with the UN. And I would wager that somewhere in that little blue can that said UNICEF, I learned what the UN was. And I learned that if you did a few things, you can help other people. And so Halloween was, for me, a way of helping other kids. But who really made that happen was my mother, the little girl. She said, let's go reading for UNICEF. Yeah. And I learned what it meant. And I'm still learning what it means. So thank you so much, Lorraine, because this opens up a whole new world for so many people.
Yeah, absolutely. Please. I would be so grateful for everybody. But I mean, most importantly is for people to realize that they can have a good time, and that they can give back, and it's purpose-driven holiday. And I was reading an article on one of the the other day, and they were saying that now the slower traveler wants to go deeper into a community rather than just 12-day flitting around the world. They want to get involved. They want to get deep into a community and learn more about that community. The slow travel or whatever that whole new concept. And of course, conscious travelers. They definitely want to be more involved and get to know the community and get to know the people and get to know their cultures and enjoy.
And it's very transformative too, which is another big buzzword in travel, but it really is true.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
For everybody, I thank you, Lorraine. Well, this is not the last time we'll be talking. And for everybody else, you know what I'm going to say. Never stop traveling.